You wake up and the first thing you feel isn't sadness. It's nothing. A thick gray fog where emotions used to be. The ceiling looks the same as it did yesterday and the day before that. Your phone buzzes with messages from people who care about you, but opening them feels like lifting a weight you don't have the strength for. You know you should get up. You know you should eat something. You know you should respond to those texts. But knowing and doing are living on two different planets right now. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a voice whispers the most dangerous lie depression tells. This is just who I am now. Here's what nobody tells you about depression. Most of the standard advice makes it worse. Just think positively. Go for a walk. Other people have it harder. These aren't solutions. They're guilt wrapped in good intentions. And they reinforce the exact mental loop that keeps depression running. In this video, we're throwing out the platitudes. I'm going to walk you through 5 psychological shifts that actually change how your brain processes depression, not by fighting it harder, but by understanding what depression actually is and working with your biology instead of against it. And before we go further, this is not medical advice. If you're in crisis, please reach out to a professional or a crisis line. What I'm sharing are psychological frameworks that complement treatment, not replace it. Chapter 1. Depression is not sadness, it's shut down. Most people think depression means feeling intensely sad, and sometimes it does, but the core of clinical depression isn't sadness, it's shut down. Here's the psychology most people miss. Your brain has a threat response system that evolved to keep you alive. When you face an overwhelming, inescapable stressor, something you can't fight and can't flee from, your nervous system doesn't pump you with adrenaline. It does the opposite. It downshifts, conserves energy, tells you to curl up, withdraw, and stop trying. Biologists call this the defeat response. Same mechanism you see when an animal trapped with no escape goes limp. Now here's where it gets cruel. Modern life doesn't attack you physically, but your brain can't tell the difference between a predator and a soul-crushing job you can't leave, or a relationship falling apart, or months of isolation, or the crushing weight of expectations you never chose. Your nervous system registers the same message. There is no way out. Shut down to survive. Why does this matter? Because if you think depression is just sadness, you'll try to fix it by chasing happiness, gratitude journals, positive affirmations, forced smiles. But if depression is a shutdown response, the fix isn't forcing yourself to feel better. The fix is gently signaling to your nervous system that the threat is over. Think of it like this. If your computer freezes because it's overloaded, you don't fix it by opening more programs. You give it less to process. Same principle. Depression isn't a failure to be happy. It's a nervous system that's been running at maximum capacity for too long and finally pulled the emergency brake. The first thing you need isn't joy, it's safety. Chapter 2. The effort paradox. This is where things get uncomfortable, because the instinct when you're depressed is to fight it, to push harder. I'm going to force myself to go to the gym. I'm going to start a morning routine. I'm going to think positively if it kills me. And here's the problem. Depression is one of those things where effort backfires. The backwards law. The harder you chase sleep, the more awake you become. The tighter you grip happiness, the faster it slips away. Depression works the same way. Every time you tell yourself, I should be better by now, or why can't I just get over this, you are adding a second layer of suffering on top of the original pain. Now you're not just depressed, you're depressed and failing at not being depressed. There's a concept in psychology called the undoing effect of self-compassion. Research shows that the single biggest predictor of recovery from depression isn't willpower, isn't positive thinking, and isn't even medication alone. It's the ability to treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend in the same situation. When you stop fighting the depression and instead acknowledge it. Of course I feel this way. Look at what I've been through. Look at what I'm carrying. Something shifts. The second layer of suffering peels away. This is not about giving up. It's about changing the nature of the effort. You stop trying to force the depression to leave and start creating the conditions where it naturally releases. Ask yourself, if your best friend was feeling exactly what you're feeling right now, what would you say to them? Would you tell them to try harder? Would you tell them other people have it worse? No. You'd sit with them. You'd validate their pain. You'd remind them that feeling broke doesn't mean they are broken. Start saying those exact words to yourself. Chapter 3. Behavioral activation, the 5-minute rule. Now, I want to be very clear about something. The previous chapter was about not fighting depression with guilt and self-criticism. But here's the other side of the coin. Depression will tell you to do nothing, to stay in bed, to wait until you feel ready. And if you listen to that voice, depression deepens. This is the trap. There's an evidence-based therapy called behavioral activation. It is one of the most effective treatments for depression that exists. The principle is simple but profound. Action comes first. Motivation follows, not the other way around. Depression convinces you that you need to feel motivated before you can act. That's backwards. You act first, said even in the smallest, most mechanical way, and motivation gradually returns because of the action, not a prerequisite for it. Here's how to apply this without falling into the effort trap from the last chapter. You use the 5-minute rule, but you apply it differently than when you're just procrastinating. When you're depressed, you're not aiming for productivity. You're aiming for activation. The goal is not get everything done. The goal is do one thing that reminds my nervous system I'm still alive and capable of movement. Make a cup of tea and actually taste it. Step outside outside and stand in sunlight for 5 minutes. Not a run, not a workout, just stand there. Send one text to one person, not a long explanation, just thinking of you. Put on music you loved when you were 15 and let it play. That's it. That's the whole task. If you do more, great. If you don't, you succeeded anyway. The key is that you're not demanding recovery from yourself. You're placing tiny breadcrumbs of proof that life is still happening, that your body can still move, that small things can still matter. Depression shrinks your world until your bedroom is the entire universe. Behavioral activation expands it back, one 5-minute window at a time. Chapter 4. The Identity Trap. Depression does something insidious that most people don't notice until years into it. It rewrites your identity. You stop saying, I'm experiencing depression, and start saying, I'm depressed. The noun replaces the verb. A passing experience becomes a permanent label, and once something becomes your identity, your brain works overtime to keep it consistent. This is cognitive fusion again. The same mechanism that drives overthinking. You fuse with the thought, I am a depressed person, and suddenly every piece of evidence that confirms it gets magnified, and every piece of evidence that contradicts it gets filtered out. You had a decent morning? Doesn't count. You laughed at a joke? Fluke. You got out of bed before noon? Meaningless. Your brain actively protects the identity you've given it, even when that identity is making you miserable. The shift here is subtle, but tremendous. You are not a depressed person. You are a person who is currently experiencing depression. That's not wordplay. That's the difference between a life sentence and a chapter. When you say, I am depressed, you're claiming depression as a permanent feature of who you are. When you say, I'm experiencing depression, you're acknowledging it as a temporary state that is happening to you, not the core of what you are. Practice this linguistically. Catch yourself when the I am statements appear. I am broken. No. You are a person who is in pain right now. I am incapable of being happy. No. You are a person who is currently unable to access joy. Every time you separate the experience from the identity, you loosen depression's grip on your sense of self. You stop protecting the label and start noticing the moments that don't fit it. And those moments, the decent morning, the unexpected laugh, the walk outside, those are the foundation recovery is built on. Chapter 5. The Connection Paradox. Depression is an isolating disease. That's not a metaphor. It's a biological reality. When your nervous system shifts into shutdown mode, the drive to connect with other people gets suppressed. You stop reaching out. You stop answering. You cancel plans. You disappear. The cruel irony is that connection is one of the most powerful antidepressants we have. Human beings are wired for co-regulation. When you're in the presence of someone who makes you feel safe, your nervous system literally synchronizes with theirs. Your heart rate slows. Your cortisol drops. Your breathing deepens. You borrow their calm until your own system remembers how to produce it. But depression tells you the opposite. It tells you you're a burden. It tells you nobody wants to hear about your problems. It tells you to isolate until you're better, which guarantees you never get better. This is the connection paradox. The thing that would help the most is the thing depression makes hardest to do. The solution isn't forcing yourself to be social. It's creating low pressure, low expectation connection points. Text one friend and say, I'm struggling right now. I don't need advice. I just wanted someone to know. Go to a coffee shop and sit near people without forcing conversation. Call a family member and ask about their day, not to talk about yourself, just to hear a familiar voice. These aren't social obligations. They're nervous system interventions. And if there's nobody in your life you feel safe reaching out to, find a support group, online or in person. There is something uniquely powerful about sitting in a room, physical or digital, with people who actually understand what you're going through because they're going through it too. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to perform wellness. You just have to show up. Depression is not a character defect. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a nervous system that's been overwhelmed and needs time, safety, and the right conditions to come back online. You don't beat depression by fighting harder. You recover by understanding what it actually is and working with your biology, not against it. Try one of these shifts this week, just one. 5 minutes of sunlight, one text, one moment of self-compassion instead of self-criticism. See what moves. If this connected with you, subscribe to the channel. And if you're in a place where you can, drop a comment. Not advice for other people, just something true about your own experience. Sometimes the most healing thing is knowing you're not the only one sitting in the dark at 3 a.m. thinking nobody gets it. Someone does.